what's the problem? Everything is jazz and I'm Stockton.
They may not be somebody that you totally expected from day one.
Everybody got a little, everybody got it.
Go get it, go get it.
That's right. What you gonna do? That's right. Baby, I'ma spend it all with you. Yeah, and I'm headed to the other side where the grass is always greener and
One.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Nguyen.
Hi, my name is Brian Rodriguez.
My name is Joshua Merald.
I identify as gay.
I identify as a bisexual woman.
I'm Filipino American and I identify as bisexual.
The environment that I grew up in, thankfully, was accepting overall. I say thankfully as if it's like a luxury, when it should be the normal.
Growing up, I didn't really have a super traditional Filipino family. I mean, we grew up Catholic.
As a kid, I already knew I liked boys. I had a new crush every week and they're always boys. So I already knew that I was straight without really knowing what straight meant to begin with.
I think in the back of my mind, I knew that I was different. Like, I would look at boys my age when I was a child and I was literally like, oh, like they're cute. And I would look at girls and think the same thing.
Within like my church community, I definitely saw a little bit of that homophobia. Definitely that othering of people who didn't identify as straight or didn't identify as what the norm was. And so from a young age, I really felt almost boxed into that idea that like, I'm a guy, I should like girls.
As I got older, it became a lot more difficult, only because your peers, once you grow into like middle school years, they become a lot more aggressive and they pick you apart a lot easier. So I was in middle school receiving slurs and threats because I was different. I tried so hard to conceal it because I was scared to how people would react, and receiving those reactions regardless of what I was saying or doing, it just made me realize that it was like inevitable for me.
There are a lot of struggles that you experience as a person of color. There's a lot of struggles you experience as a person within the LGBTQ community. And when you combine the two, there's just a whole slew of other problems that you can experience.
My mom being a teacher, so I kind of grew up with this thought that like, oh, gotta focus on academics. And I think that's something that a lot of Asians can definitely relate to. That kind of like dug in that like, hey, I shouldn't be in a relationship until I'm done with school.
My mom always says I was like a depressed kid, or I was very lonely or alone. I never wanted to do anything. I was very quiet. If people invited me out to hang out with them, my mom would push me to go or to parties, and I would say no, I'd rather stay home. Trying to figure out my identity was really hard. And luckily for me, my gender identity, I just reaffirmed it because I didn't have any issues with that. Luckily, I had the privilege to identify as the gender identity that I was born in.
I didn't really put myself out there in terms of relationships and forming like what it is that I personally identify as until late in my high school career to early college.
Sometimes parents aren't against you being gay. They are just so sick and tired of hardship. A lot of the negative reaction stems from a fear of having to struggle some more and struggle to assimilate into a culture, into a society that is predominantly cis, predominantly heterosexual.
My family was complicated because it was in like different separate occasions. I came out to my older sister first. A lot of people at our school kind of questioned her a lot about my identity. It was my identity that I was trying to figure out, so she would get frustrated at times with me because I wouldn't give her a direct answer. Kind of like created some friction in our relationship as siblings.
Coming out was not easy for me.
I have not officially come out to my immediate family. My sister knows, and that was on a complete accident.
For my older sister, it actually was completely slip of the tongue.
My parents, it was in 2 separate occasions as well. For many years, I was like, I'm not gonna tell them. I don't have to tell them. I'm okay with never telling them ever.
For a lot of people, I'm not out. I am afraid of getting judged and having people have misconceptions or preconceptions of who I am based on my sexuality.
You end up being gay, like it just so happens that you have one more hoop to jump through.
I felt inner demons in my head at the time, and I was like, no, there's a chance that they could not be okay with this. And I couldn't risk it. I thought I couldn't risk it. I'm gonna wait till I go to college, because then at that point I'll be on my own and I'll be forced to find, I could emancipate. I was just thinking so many things.
The main shame, quote unquote shame, that I feel about being Vietnamese or Filipino is the lack of acceptance of the LGBTQ community. Very traditional Asian households tend to stay obviously within tradition. So anything that's different, anything that's progressive is practically rejected immediately.
From my own parents to other Filipino parents around me that I grew up with, like being bakla always had a negative connotation to it.
Being queer was hard, especially in a Latino community. Chicano or Latino culture, Latino American culture is very machista, very patriarchal. Any signs of femininity are seen as beneath or just not good. They're associated with negative traits.
So it's really hard to educate the older generation that came here, that fought to come here because of dangerous circumstances. They fought to come here and they fought to assimilate and be normal, right? Normal. And so when they're given this concept that, oh, there's another thing to make you different, there's another thing that doesn't make you normal, that's already rejected because they've worked so hard to be accepted here. And I think that that's like a very big thing that I'm sad about.
My culture was very ignorant in certain areas, very homophobic, very anti-Black. So I carried a lot of shame being apart from that.
In terms of being Filipino, I saw a lot of kind of manhood concepts, and like how, again, like the idea of like being bakla is not manly, is not normal.
The heavy Catholic Christian influence that we have in our Chicano communities, there's that stigma, like I was gonna go to hell. It's not okay. Like this shouldn't be you. I was always told, you have time to change. It makes it a lot more difficult for people like me or queer people within Chicano communities to come out or express themselves.
Being a person of color, I have to work a little bit harder, a little bit smarter, be a little bit stronger just to get ahead. But now that I'm gay, I have to do even more just to be accepted.
The way that society views bisexuals it's invisible, as if things are like black and white, as if people can only be gay or only be straight, when in reality it's on a spectrum.
They view us as disposable. We're not important. We're beneath in regard to the social hierarchy that we have in our society, specifically Western standards of society.
I feel like society kind of views bisexuality as a weird middle ground.
A large portion of society views me as confused, or that I can't make up a decision. I have gotten the question before, like if you've never been with a woman, how do you know that you like them in the first place? Are you just saying it just to say it? Or it's like I'm putting my foot half into the LGBTQ community, or I'm half gay, when in reality I'm not half gay, I'm bisexual.
For me, it's kind of the label that I find myself most drawn to identify so deeply with a concept, with a word, and to have it not really be recognized. It's painful in a way to see.
I just do not like that people are invalidating my identity because it doesn't fit their description or their understanding of it.
And then getting hit with questions like, are you more straight or are you more gay? Like, I don't owe everyone an explanation. I don't have to be the one who explains everything to you so that you understand, because as a person who lives in this society, I do believe people shouldn't be pushing that burden onto others to understand someone else's experience.
Late at night, I would always cry myself to sleep, praying multiple times that I wish I was straight, that I wish it went away. The feelings I had, the feelings I carried. I was disgusted in myself all the time, every time I looked in the mirror.
Within social media and like online platforms in general is the fetishization of women loving women, especially if they're people of color, which I think is very contradictory, especially because there's a lot of biphobic and a lot of homophobic feelings towards us, and yet we just so happen to be the most fetishized and searched topic in a lot of content areas. So many people dislike you in your natural state, but they will engage in content that only serves them by using you. I think that's the best way to describe it. I feel used in a sense, or people that identify what I identify as are being used. They're not being accepted, but in the same sense, their identity is being used to please others. You would do whatever you could to benefit from us, but you reject anything that could benefit us.
Be aware that we're just the same as them, trying to live the same life. I want romance, I want success, I want all of that in my life. I want that for everyone's life, you know?
People should be aware that everyone's on different points of their individual journeys of understanding who they are. Those answers that we seek and those questions that we have can't necessarily be answered just by asking someone who is of that label or of that identity.
Not every single person is the same. The way that they identify themselves, the way that they understand their sexuality, their gender, it's very personal per person. So it's not fair to put everyone into a mold or try to fit everyone into a mold.
Everyone has a lot to learn when it comes to our own experiences and about the experiences of others. So just being aware that there's so much more to learn.
It's a moving scale, and the older you get, the more life experiences you have, the more that you understand yourself and how your little brain works.
People need to be aware that there's more than just what they see or what they experience. There's different types of experiences, different types of livelihoods that aren't shared all the time. We're not a monolith. We're not all one type of identity. We're so multifaceted.
One of my college professors actually put it, if the whole of human experience and whole of everything that everyone knows is on one circle, what we know starts out in like one small sliver, and then it just whittles down to one point. But then there's still the rest of the circle.
I feel like there's always something similar you can find with someone. Speak up, importantly. Advocate for those people, for people like me, for people who struggle or face more criticisms and harassments and discrimination. Treat people with kindness. It's so much easier to be kind and loving than to be hateful.
In this circle that we call the world, there's so many different experiences that we just need to listen a lot of the time and search for the answers that we're looking for, and understand that it's okay to not know as long as we are finding those answers for ourselves.
If you're an individual that is in need of help or support, call 1-866-488-7386. The Trevor Project is a free, safe, and confidential space that provides live help to the LGBTQIA community for youth. Thank you for watching this month's episode of CoPo Talk. We hope that y'all enjoyed that episode. We post videos every single month. Make sure you subscribe to the AkbayanSJSU YouTube channel, and we'll see y'all next month.